So I was listening to Halford and Bruff, and their Friday episode, which featured Donnie and Dolly, Czech TV's Rick Dhaliwal, as a guest. Now, if you are here in the Vancouver area, you've probably heard of Halford and Bruff. You've probably listened to their show before. They're very famous here in this part of town when it comes to the sports commentary scene on the radio. But in their latest segment with Dhaliwal from last week, there was a pretty interesting set of comments that Dhaliwal made that I wanted to dive into in its own individual video here. In the context of their conversation, they were talking about the Vancouver Canucks and the third overall pick. They were debating whom it is the Canucks would take, whom it is the Canucks should take. And there was a thought brought up by Dolly on this segment on the radio, saying essentially that he thinks Caleb Malhotra could be the guy. Now, I'm paraphrasing here, just trying to cut to the chase a little bit. Caleb Malhotra could be that guy for the Canucks, and that's something that might need to be debated. Because what Dolly brings up is whether or not the Vancouver Canucks would pass on a top-tier right-handed defenseman to go with a center, because they do need a center. To expand further on this point, Dhaliwal brings up the 2023 NHL Entry Draft as an example. Because back in the 2023 draft, the Vancouver Canucks had the 11th overall pick, and they ended up using it to select Tom Wilander. Why? Because they needed a right-handed defenseman at that time. Just 2 picks later, however, Zach Benson of the Buffalo Sabres ended up getting drafted. Now, Benson, while he may not be the top scoring guy out of the 2023 NHL Entry Draft, we said this a few videos ago, I'll repeat it again here, this guy might be the most impactful player out of the draft so far. Not because he's the top point guy, but because this guy is an absolute menace. He's got 6 points in 9 playoff games this season. He made the NHL right after getting drafted. And this year, he had 43 points in 65 regular season games, all while playing with a Brad Marchand-esque level of grit and annoyingness that just totally pissed off all of his opposing teams in these playoffs so far. You saw the Charlie McAvoy thing, you saw what's been going on with the Montreal Canadiens so far. It's not been fun for opponents of Zach Benson. And the Vancouver Canucks passed on that guy. 1, because he's a winger, but 2, because they thought he was too small. It is when talking about this point that Rick Dhaliwal then expands more on the Canucks don't like guys who are too small idea. He brings up a few other names. Apparently, the Canucks didn't draft Logan Stankoven because they thought he was too small. The Canucks passed up on Cole Caufield because they thought he was too small. They passed up on Cole Hudson, even though his brother Lane was so good, because Cole Hudson was too small. Rick Dhaliwal brings it up on this program that there are 32 NHL teams. You can't be passing on guys because they are too small. Now, I will admit, the small conversation, that's a little bit outside the realm of relevance when it comes to the Stenberg, Reed, Malhotra thing. They were talking about the Canucks drafting for need over BPA, and then it shifted into another conversation about not taking Benson. But I wanted to talk about this idea a little bit, because I, for one, have been a very big spokesperson, I guess is the right word to use, on this YouTube channel about the dominance of a guy like Cole Caufield, who, once upon a time, was a Montreal Canadiens prospect that went a lot later in the draft than we thought he would. Caufield in the 2019 season was touted as Jack Hughes' right-hand man. The reason Jack Hughes had so many points and assists was because he was sending the puck to Caufield to bury those pucks and to get all the points on the board. Jack Hughes is on record saying that. Like, I wouldn't have nearly as many assists or points if I wasn't playing with Cole Caufield. And the fact that he ended up breaking the US NTDP scoring record was incredible. There were people like myself who said that Caufield could be a top 5 talent in the draft. And guess what? He was available at 10th overall. I wanted the Canucks to draft the guy. If you see my Vasily Podkolzin draft reaction video, you'll see that I was legitimately disappointed when Podkolzin was the guy. I wanted Caufield, and that was a very big proponent of my 2019 commentary back in the day. This, of course, would have changed the Vancouver Canucks forever if they ended up actually taking the guy that I personally wanted in Cole Caufield. I mean, think about it. He is a 50-goal scorer nowadays, and I get that you can say that there are a number of caveats to that. Oh, a lot of people are scoring goals nowadays. There's like a new 100-point scorer, a new 50-goal guy every other year, so it's just the nature of the NHL today that 50-goal scorers and 100-point players, they grow on trees. We're not in the same 2016, 17, 18 years where 80 points wins you the Art Ross. You can bring that element up as a meaningful piece of discourse, but it doesn't really change the fact that Cole Caufield is a monster, and Vancouver specifically avoiding guys because they are too small. It's another one of these elements that potentially holds them back from actually having meaningful and talented prospects in their system. Caufield was available at 10. Cole Hudson was available a lot later, a few years later. Zach Benson was right there for the Canucks to take, and that guy was born in Langley. He's played out of Chilliwack in his junior minor hockey days. If the Vancouver Canucks wanted to do the easy thing, they wanted to just get the guy that was the easiest pick possible back in 2023, they should have just gone with Zach Benson. You want to talk about culture? You want to talk about heart? You want to talk about guys that build up the room? Zach Benson is one of those Brad Marchand type guys that is just giving his team more fuel in the fight here. It's going very well with Buffalo right now, and Vancouver passed up the opportunity to take on him. First, because he's too small, and second, because they needed a right-handed D. Do you see the Vancouver Canucks changing their ways at some point, starting to evaluate smaller talents on more of an even playing field? Because, it doesn't matter if Cole Caufield goes out there and scores 80 goals alongside of Jack Hughes with the NTDP. That guy's 5'7", so we're not going to take him at 10th overall. You could say that 2019 may have been the last time we would have seen decisions like these be made, because Cole Caufield was taken 15th overall. It was all of a sudden like a really big deal that he was projected first round in the first place because another guy who was an American goal scorer who had a similar profile to Caufield and Alex DeBrincat, that guy didn't go until the second round in 2016. Lane Hudson also wasn't a first round pick. That guy went into 2022 draft in the second round. So I guess the NHL still has a lot of learning to do when it comes to acknowledging the fact that small players can still be effective players. I understand it takes a lot of time for groupthink and the old boys eye test policies with scouting to evolve and change, but at some point, Vancouver, you gotta take those swings. You gotta go for high upside. And that's what they got to do with third overall, right? We could have another conversation later in today's show about the third overall pick. There are a few elements that I wanted to discuss when it comes to a potential American defenseman coming over to Vancouver and whether or not that's actually a good idea these days. But we'll save that for the video later this afternoon. For now, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. How do you feel about the Canucks passing up on Zach Benson and passing up on Cole Caufield because they were too small? Do you think this was the right move? Do you think taking Podkolzin and Tom Wielander were better decisions at the time? And when you evaluate it in 2026, what does your gut tell you? Thoughts in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.